Whoa. Fighting with this thing. Off to a good start. All right. My name is Evan Miyazono, and I have a problem. I was told that this is the section in which we could share open problems, and I'm very excited to talk about one. This is basically all I will tell you about what I do with the rest of my time. I am at Protocol Labs. I've been there for 5 years. We mostly build products that give users sovereignty over their data. Who has it, how it's structured. If you are building anything in the Web3 space, you're probably touching libp2p or IPFS in some way, whether or not you know it. I lead a small team called Network Goods, and we are trying to engineer revolutionary coordination systems. When I say that, I'm specifically thinking of all of these weird paradigm-shifting inventions that kind of were one day, like went from not being a thing to one day being a major thing, often with like large-scale, slow adoption in between, but these then fade into the background of our experience, and these become hugely empowering if you think about like what the world was like before insurance or before the sit-in, and there isn't, I feel, nearly enough intentionality around building new systems like this. And so we've set out with the goal of building systems like this in order to empower communities to build what we're calling network goods. The projects are roughly 7 coordination systems and a conference, and combined they intend to set out to be an analog of capital markets to fund things that are non-excludable goods. So these would be public goods, commons, could include infrastructure, knowledge, things like that. We find this particularly important for digital communities, the online world, because there isn't a government that can tax like the internet in a native way, in the same way that you can tax the physical assets that live in a place. Obviously, when you have, and this is going into the problem that I would love to discuss and collaborate with probably economists on, but computer scientists would fit really well too. And I have other problems too, so if you're like, this is interesting but not my field, come find me anyway. When we talk about non-excludable goods, these should probably exist in the context of a community. I use community very generally, a group of people who have some shared values or goals or something that ties them together, experiences potentially. Oftentimes these groups will share resources and contribute towards things that they want as a group, and some of these things are public goods or commons, and that can feed back to not just the community, but others in the community. And I'll highlight that part of what excites me about the idea of DAOs and a lot of these online communities is that these aren't novel in the way that they're often treated. If you look at this structure, unions do this, governments do this, corporations do this, church groups do this. Like this kind of, like lending groups do this. This kind of relationship is as old as society, and yet we now have a way of doing this robustly in a non-nation specific way and doing so on the internet. And so this should be far more scalable than it ever has been, because we can now share resources with the breakthroughs that, or permissionlessly share resources in a way that only the breakthroughs in cryptography and distributed systems have enabled. I would additionally assume that there's probably some interaction between community members and non-members. I think if you don't assume that there is some relationship, that there's probably, like, the definition of community gets too vague and basically useless. But there's this definition of regenerative cryptoeconomics. I did not make these slides knowing I was going after Kevin, but I'm very glad that I am. I definitely stole this definition from his meme cyclopedia, Green Pilled, which I would definitely recommend as a set of ideas related to the crypto community and regenerative economics. You should have systems that satisfy human needs, create positive externalities, and create balance. And of this chain of network goods, value capture entities, and non-members, I want to know when this is economically stable, what are the parameters that we should think about, should know about? I would claim that there's probably some optimal amount of distribution of funding generated by a community to network goods or public goods or commons. This could be a government, like Governments should think about this. Communities, online communities, Ethereum should think about this. Filecoin should think about this. What are phase boundaries? I think that you could probably find theoretical optimums based on rational economic assumptions. You could probably define a phase space that you could explore with Monte Carlo simulations. I don't think that this is intractable. It's just something that I haven't had the time or energy to do. And we've obviously done this for Filecoin, the main source of revenue for protocol labs, but this is very niche, and I think that if we could find directions to give to communities, whether those are small clubs all the way up to national governments, on this is how much you should probably be spending to maximize your output in a subjective measurement of what output is, then I think that would be a really great contribution for Plurality, which is a set of communities at the end of the day. And this is a link to the slides. I have a formal statement of the problem on the next slide, but you have to follow this link to get there, and that's my Telegram and Twitter on the bottom. Come find me, or find me here later. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.